Hello and welcome to day 6 of our Novena of Grace. This novena directed to the intercession of St. Francis Xavier here at Divine Mercy Parish. I once heard someone say that as a Christian, we are not to be optimistic, but we are to be hopeful. Sometimes we use these two words of optimism or hope as synonyms, but in fact, of course, they are different. A Christian looks at the world clearly. A Christian sees the world as it is. And so as a consequence then, it would be sort of irregular to see the world optimistically, be looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. At the same time, we do not despair. But as a Christian, we are always hopeful, a hope that is never defeated, but rather a hope that always remains. Because our hope is based upon the promise of Jesus Christ. And so the salvation of the world, he has won on Easter Sunday. And so God's kingdom is both deepening and progressing. It is growing, one soul at a time, if you will. But because he has given us his word, then in faith, we believe then that the salvation of the world will indeed occur. Because God has promised it. Moreover, God has already worked it with the resurrection. I read this part of one of a letter of St. Francis Xavier. He was over in India when he wrote it. And in the letter, he was talking about an incredible frustration, an incredible disappointment and difficulty. He was tirelessly proclaiming the gospel. He was tirelessly seeking to spread that good news, to be of service to others in India. But at the same time, maybe like in the cities, those Europeans who had come, most of them weren't overly interested in the well-being of the people there, but rather they were interested in the accumulation of riches. So how to use the resources there, or how to take advantage of the people in such a way as to maximize their profit. And so they then gave a terrible example of what it was to be a Christian. Therefore, for St. Francis, it was this obstacle. He was proclaiming Christianity, and yet the people could see in others a terrible example in terms of mistreating others, of cruelty and basic insensitivity to the plight of others. So St. Francis, despite writing this in the letter, he then continued with an unbridled enthusiasm in that work of spreading the good news of that evangelization in India at the time. It reminds me of this story when I was first ordained. I was in Jamaica. And I remember one day, one of the members of the choir came to the church. And just by looking at her, you knew it was not a good day. She seemed sad, distraught, withdrawn. And so I immediately then asked her if she'd like to come in and chat. And so in the course of the conversation, she tells me that in her little neighborhood, there was a man. And the man had left Jamaica as a young man. And he had gone to the United States to work. So he worked there for many decades. And at the end of his time when he retired, he returned to Jamaica. And so with all the money that he had made working in the United States, he would support little initiatives in the community, in the neighborhood, especially with regard to education. However, this one day, some gang members went and demanded money. He refused. They told him, well, if you don't give us any money, we will kill you. Again, he refused. And then the night before, they had gone over, and indeed, they killed him. And so this woman was basically saying, here was a light in her community. He was supporting and sponsoring different initiatives. He was supporting and sponsoring young people in their education. And yet this evil, this darkness comes and blows it out. And so she was despairing that the world will never be different, that it is the darkness that will overcome the light. And so I reminded her. I asked her the question, I asked her about John's prologue. And I said, can you remind me what it says in the Gospel of John? Is it that the light is overcome by the darkness? Or is it that the darkness is overcome by the light? In that prologue, of course, the light is never overcome. Because Jesus Christ is the light of the world. He is the all-powerful God. And when you read in the Gospels, when Jesus encounters those who are possessed, you can see how they react to his presence. They say, leave us. We know who you are. They respond in this way because they cannot oppose him. That is, with the coming of the Messiah, with the coming of the Savior of the world, evil is in full retreat. And it's a retreat that cannot be stopped. And so it is easy for us to look about in the world. We can look about and we can see this war or that war. Or we can look about and see this natural disaster or that natural disaster. Or we can look about and see the plight of this people or that people. And by looking at the world in this way, indeed it seems so heavy. It seems that the world is just getting worse. It seems even that there is no hope. But our hope is not in the progress of mere humanity. Our hope is in Jesus Christ. And he has conquered evil. On the cross, it has been conquered. With the resurrection, that is eternal. And so as a Christian, we may not be optimistic because we don't look at the world through rose-colored glasses. But rather, we are hopeful because our hope is founded on Jesus Christ. And he will be with us to the end of the ages. And so maybe we have a struggle in our own lives. And this struggle has been going on a long time. Maybe we're stuck in a pattern of sinfulness. I just want to be free of this, or I want to be free of that. And it seems that the more we try, the more stuck we get. And then we can say, well, maybe I should stop confessing it. Because it seems that I'm never going to be redeemed of it. That I'm just stuck here and stuck here forever. No. Jesus Christ has given us his word. Therefore, it is a done deal. All we have to do is pray for the grace and try and work with him, try and cooperate with him. And so we never lose hope, because he has promised us. And he never takes back his promise. And if we wonder, well, what strength is the promise? Is it fleeting? Is it vulnerable? Just look at the cross. That's the strength of his promise. It could not be stronger. Or looking to the world. Again, we know that when he was crucified and rose from the dead, he has saved the world. All we have to do is accept it. All we have to do is live through this free gift. So St. Francis wrote about how it seemed that his work was all for nothing. Because every time he did something good, or every time he proclaimed the gospel, people would look around and they would see other people from the same place Francis was from, people who said they were Christian, and they were enslaving, they were tearing apart the land to get its jewels, its riches, they were oppressing, they were taxing everything. But he was more enthusiastic than ever. Why? Did St. Francis Xavier look at the world through rose-colored glasses? Absolutely not. But he looked at the world and understood the world and experienced the world through the lens of Christ. Therefore, hope abounded, because the light of the world, will never be overcome. God bless, and see you on day 7.